everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week we are continuing on with my Outlander bodice, and I'm pretty determined that we are going to finish up my Outlander project this week because we're pretty close. So since the end of last week's video, which if you haven't seen last week's video, I will link that down in the description, but basically we mocked up the entire bodice and got it to almost this state right here that you are seeing. And really the only difference between where we ended last week and where we are starting out this week is that I have removed a good portion of the boning from this stomacher, and I've also shortened the boning remaining. So I think I took out like 5 pieces of boning, 4 pieces of boning, something like that. Basically half of the boning that was in the stomacher, I took it out. It was too much, and also the boning was making it sit too high. It was like coming away from the body. It just wasn't good. So at this point, what I have is still kind of pinned into place, but I've shortened the boning down to like approximately here. I shortened it by 1 3/4 inches, so it may have pushed up a little since I have not yet sealed off those boning channels. But that is my next step. I'm going to seal off the boning channels, and then I'm going to re-hand sew the very top edge of the stomacher because I had to undo it to get down into all of the boning channels. Once I do that, I am torn whether I want boning to be on the edges of this bodice, or rather whether boning will sit well on the edges of this bodice, because this is going to be laced closed. And the thing is that normally you put boning along either side of where you would have eyelets for lacing, and that helps everything lay really nicely. But I just don't know whether a boning channel is going to work on this because it's kind of curved. Like it kind of comes out and then goes back in. And I am just a little bit concerned about whether bones are going to be actually working on that. And unfortunately, I don't think I have spiral steel that would be the right length. I have almost no spiral steel. I keep all of my boning over here, and I have almost no spiral steel. And so I doubt that I have something that will work, but that's really the only type of boning that can shift itself sideways like that. And I don't know whether synthetic whalebone would actually work nicely. So I think I am going to stitch boning channels there, because if anything else, I also want those eyelets to sit a boning channel away from the edge. Oh, hi, Cookie. Cookie is being scared right now because it is July 5th and there's a lot of assholes in my city and they're all shooting off fireworks still. And this is my drugged dog who is still scared because there's so many assholes out there. And if you are a person who shoots off fireworks, don't, because you're rude. In any case, back to the project at hand. So we don't have that much left to go on this project, besides the eyelets, which I'm planning to do on my Viking Emerald. Luckily, that machine is able to do functional eyelets, which is really, really great. Besides the eyelets and the boning channels in the edges here, we have to do the facings first to get ourselves to the boning channels. So I'm planning to face this area, basically where the lacing is going to be, with cotton canvas so that it's a little bit stiffer. I may even do cotton canvas under wool, but probably I'll just do the cotton canvas. Then I'm going to have bias tape that goes from here around the neckline and also on the edges of the sleeves. And then at the bottom along the whole hem here, I'm actually going to use wide bias cut out of the wool fabric that I've used. That way, if the tails flip up at all, I will have about like 1.5 to 2 inches of a facing where we won't see my lining, basically. So that's what we've got going on right now. I'm going to get started with the stomacher, finishing that off and getting that to a point where it's great, and then we will move into facings and bindings. Hi, sweetheart. It's okay. It's okay. You're all right. It's okay, sweetie. It's okay. Let's turn the air conditioning back on, okay? Maybe we'll have another half a trazodone? Do you want more trazodone? We can have more trazodone. Okay, so I have all of my various facings all layered on right now. Hopefully I did them all in the right order. I actually had to fix this one because at first I had put the bias tape on first, and the bias tape wants to tuck underneath the canvas once this is turned right sides out, or I guess in this case, right sides in since it's a facing. And so I had to redo that a little bit. And then down here I have the wool facing along the hem underneath the canvas, which should mean that it will go over the canvas, but I've actually stitched the full corner so that they fully overlap. And I think that's going to turn into a nice clean corner like I want it to. And then there will be a boning channel that I create in this area in the canvas here. I've decided to just do one boning channel, and I think I'm going to do lacing rings instead of eyelets, because if we look at this closely, there's no eyelets here. The lacing is below the exterior. And so I think with the lacing rings, it will give me the look that I want there with that nice clean edge. And we'll just have one row of the boning in the edge there. So right now it's time to clip all my corners, all my curves, etc., and turn this right sides out. And then the edges of both this and the canvas get pressed down like you see here. I had to press the very edges first before I could sew it, so that those would be nice when I turn the facing into the inside. So I have all of the facings and everything all pinned into place now, ready to be hand sewn down. And I was trying to figure out, okay, at this point, how do I know where the boning channel needs to stop and start? And I think that I can actually hand sew down all of my facings except right across here, and still be able to put the boning channel in afterwards. That will give me the opportunity to try this on one more time with all of the facings in there and determine exactly where the boning should stop, because I don't think that it needs to go all the way down to the point. The canvas creates quite a lot of stiffness here. There's a possibility maybe that I don't need boning at all. I think I do. And unfortunately, I can't add the lacing rings before the boning channel because then I won't be able to machine sew the boning channel down, which is what I want to do. I also looked through my boning and was playing around with boning, and I found one spiral steel of the right length that is the right width. Just one though, so that does nothing. I actually found a whole bunch of really narrow spiral steel. This one is too short, so that doesn't count. But I found a lot of narrow spiral steel, which I'm like, why do I even have this? Probably early baby costumer me bought this thinking it was what I needed for like a corset or something, and it wasn't. And it's just literally been sitting in my stash for, I don't know, over a decade, over almost 2 decades now maybe. But I was also playing around with the synthetic whalebone, and it seems like with a sort of a gentle curve that I can actually make that happen even with this. It really can't go any more than like this, but that's all I need for the closure for the edge of this jacket. So I think that this should work just fine, and this is a much better stiffness than really any of these floppy guys anyway. Like, I don't really know why we use these at all, to be honest. And it might just be that we don't use these anymore because now we have this. But when I bought these, we literally didn't have this. This didn't exist. So that could be why. So yeah, I'm gonna hand sew all of those facings down. I also need to close back up the top of the stomacher, which actually means I need to unpin it, sew across my boning channels from the inside so that I don't have them coming out through the outside, and then whip stitch this in place up at the top. So lots of hand sewing to do. I think I'm gonna pick a movie to watch and do a lot of hand sewing. So all of my edges are all completely finished now, and I have everything pinned back in place. I am not going to actually be pinning this. This will just be laced over and held in place by the laces. Hopefully that will be enough to keep everything in place. That is my plan. And I have both ribbon and cotton tape, basically like a twill tape, coming from Amazon that are due to arrive tomorrow, because I didn't have anything in navy. I only had black, and I didn't really want to use black. And so I will be, I think, adding the rings. I'm pretty sure. I don't think I want to add eyelets to this at this point, but I think adding the rings to this. What I'm still torn about is whether or not I even need to put a boning channel in. I left it accessible to where I could, but I feel like looking in the mirror and everything that I don't actually need it. I may not know that for sure until I try to put those lacing rings on though, because then it's going to be pulled at certain places. And so I kind of worry that at that point I might realize, oh shoot, I do need boning channels. And maybe what I should do is actually sew on the boning channel right now, and then I could rip it out if I don't need it, but that way I can do it by machine and it's already done, and then I can put the lacing rings on. The other thing that I'm noticing while wearing this is that I put the sleeves in rotated too far back. Not sure how I did that, but they're about 1 inch off, so I think I am gonna have to reset them and just rotate them forward that like 1 inch. Like my elbow is off. Though actually, now that I raised my arm, my elbow felt off when I bent it down here. It is off down here because the seam is here and my elbow is here, like the point of my elbow. But when I raised my arms, then the seam winds up on my elbow. But I think it's that it needs to sit there when my arms are relaxed and not when I'm raising my arms. So I do think I need to do that because I feel like it's pulling here because they're rotated a little bit wrong. And it just feels like it's laying wrong on my arms. So yeah, I think I will go ahead and just stitch those boning channels in. That way they're there and I can use them if I need to, and if not, I can pick them out. And I'll rotate my sleeves and then I can add the lacing rings and we should be good to go. So I put all of the lacing rings on. I have not yet changed the sleeves, but for some reason, now that I have this laced shut instead of pinned shut, the sleeves really aren't bothering me. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but maybe I shouldn't change the sleeves. I also feel like I put my lacing rings in the wrong place, honestly. Somehow when I marked it when it was pinned, it was fitting differently. And I guess that explains the sleeves as well. And I'm not sure why that is, but basically I actually have rings up here because this, when I was pinning it shut, was like sitting higher, but now that I have put the rings on, I'm finding that like this wants to sit lower, but now it means that I don't quite have enough rings all the way to the top or the bottom. But you know what? I'm not sewing these rings back on because it was annoying to sew because it's into canvas. Yes, I should have been wearing a thimble. No, I was not, because I don't tend to wear thimbles unless I absolutely have to. So it's just like a little bit offset now. I think it will be fine. It is very, very weird that this has like no trim on it at all. Like, I feel like I'm having to come to terms with it somehow because it just feels completely barren. I think I'm going to wear it with a fichu or maybe like a shawl or something. I mean, they do wear a lot of knitwear in Outlander because especially up here, it's just like, what's happening? There's nothing going on. It needs something. And maybe that something is just a fichu or a shawl, but it needs something. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll have to figure out by the time the other laces come, this is just my black ribbon, what to do there, because definitely need something. I also do have to make my mind up on these sleeves because I do feel like maybe they are a little bit off. I don't know. It's really hard to decide. I mean, if they're off, they're so close to being on, but they're probably off, and I should probably just rotate them. It dawned on me what might be changing the way that this is laying. I put the boning in the boning channels. I made boning channels. I actually sewed all the way around, basically just a 3/8 inch top stitch all the way around so that it wouldn't look like I was starting and stopping randomly for channels. I don't know that I love the look, but I also feel like it blends in quite a lot on this navy wool. It just kind of disappears. Maybe you can see it more on screen or maybe you're not seeing it at all. So yeah, I did put bones in there. There were some of the bones that I'd removed from the stomacher, and maybe that's why it's laying differently. And the bones right now are going up to here because that's where I thought the lacing was going to. But I don't know, I do worry actually if I were to bring the bones shorter to here that it might kind of fight and try to stick out, whereas up here they're kind of pulled smoothly. So that is probably why it's laying differently, because there's bones in there now. The bones stop like just below where the last lacing is right here. I could have extended it, but I have already sewn across the bottoms there because I felt like this part right here shouldn't get bones in it or else that was gonna lay weirdly. But yeah, that is probably why things are laying differently, is because now there's boning in there. So that makes a lot of sense. Literally just adding my fichu and putting on some like knit mitts, I feel so much better already. I feel more 18th century. I feel more Outlander with the mitts. Maybe a shawl would be better than the fichu, but the fichu does make me feel a lot more 18th century, so you know, that's nice. Yeah, it was so lacking up here, and the fichu is providing a huge sense of relief. Well, I've reset this sleeve, just rotating it 1 inch, and I don't know that it really feels any different, but my elbow is now on the seam, and this seam isn't coming over the top of my arm, so I guess I might as well go ahead and redo this one as well. video, that is my new Outlander inspired outfit. I am very glad that I went with a fichu today instead of a shawl. It is quite warm here. Hopefully it'll be a little bit cooler when I wear this in Ireland, because this navy wool just really absorbs all of the sunlight and the warmth, and the knitted mitts don't help. The rest of it, I mean, all of it, frankly, is very comfortable though. It would just be comfortable if it was a little bit cooler out, a little bit more comfortable. I did find this picture of Claire wearing a fichu kind of tucked in like this, so that was why I went with this accessory. Also because a shawl would have been just very hot and heavy. But I really like the way that the fichu looks with it. I think it looks a lot more historically accurate, which is nice, while still kind of being in that Outlander vein with the plaid, with the wool, with the unembellished everything. So yeah, this might be the least embellished costume that I've ever made. Which is kind of crazy to think about. But I do see myself getting a lot of use out of these pieces. I think that having just like a navy wool basic jacket is really good. I don't have a lot of like non-upper class outfits of any era, frankly, and I do find that when I have made those in the past that I do get decent use out of them. They're also great for like stage costumes, because you're not always playing a wealthy person on stage. So yeah, I can definitely see myself using this in some way or the other, even maybe as separates, because frankly they work really great as separates. So I'm glad that I made this. I'm excited to see everyone else's Outlander inspired stuff when we're in Ireland. That's going to be so exciting. And yeah, this was a pretty nice, quick and easy project, especially the skirt. I mean, you guys saw, if you watched that video, how easy that one was. But frankly, this bodice was pretty easy as well. And I think I probably will make more of these just because they're so versatile. So hopefully you've enjoyed these few videos on this project. If you like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and a little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes with additional costuming or sewing related content, especially shorts, out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Jean and Kim. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!